Today, reality bites Donald Trump in the you-know-where. If the price of eggs propelled Donald Trump to victory in November, then his man-made economic instability, which has rattled markets and ushered in unease for American consumers, may very well be his political undoing. A wave of new polls show that both Donald Trump's approval ratings and voters' opinions of his handling of the economy are today in free fall. The New York Times average of polls shows this, quote, Trump's approval rating has sunk to about 45%. That's down from 52% 1 week after he took office. Voters' views of his handling of the economy are even lower than his overall approval rating. A Fox News poll out last night puts his approval on the economy at 38%. As for his handling of inflation and tariffs, just 33% of Americans approve of that. And for the first time since the year 2001, a majority of Americans say their personal finances are getting worse. So, see, it turns out the more voters see of Donald Trump's man-made chaos, the less they like it. And there is a lot of chaos. As the New York Times reports on major economic decisions, Trump blinks and then blinks again. As we reported on this show yesterday, Donald Trump threatened to fire Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, then changed his mind and backed off that threat. After slapping so-called reciprocal tariffs on every country and every island in the world, even those inhabited only by penguins, he reversed himself on that and announced a pause on those, too. As for China, which is subject to a 145% tariff, Trump says, well, now they're negotiating. Watch.
We are going to have a fair deal with China. It's going to be fair.
Are you talking to them actively now?
Actively. Everything's active. Everybody wants to be a part of what we're doing.
The Chinese government says no, not active. Quote, China and the U.S. have not engaged in any consultations or negotiations regarding tariffs, let alone reached an agreement, end quote. Adding that while China is open to talks, quote, if it's a fight, we will fight till the end. Confronted with China pouring cold water on Donald Trump's version of reality, Trump said this.
A question on China. Can you clarify with whom the U.S. is speaking with China? They're saying it's fake news that trade talks are happening.
Well, they had a meeting this morning, so I can't tell you. It doesn't matter who they is.
They just doesn't include China and the U.S., according to China. New York Times reports this, quote, in private, some Trump officials concede that they did not accurately predict China's reaction. Trump seemed to expect China to be among the first to come begging for relief, given the size of its exports to the U.S. Now, though, the cost of all of it, the price we as Americans and as a country are paying for Trump's incompetence and delusions as he stumbles on what was once his political calling card, the economy, is in part our image, our reputation, our history as a safe place to invest in and a reliable player and partner on the world stage. Take a look at the cover of The Economist. Quote, only 1,361 days to go, showing America's national symbol, the bald eagle, battered and injured and bandaged. A top Trump MAGA donor puts it this way. Our national brand is at risk. Take a listen to
America
that.
rose beyond just being a country. It was like an aspiration for most of the world. And we're eroding that brand right now. And if you think of your behavior as a consumer, how many times do you buy a product with a brand on it because you trust that brand? In the financial markets, no brand compared to the brand of the U.S. Treasuries. U.S. Treasury market, the strength of the U.S. dollar and the strength the creditworthiness of U.S. Treasuries. No brand came close. We put that brand at risk. And as you and I both know, it can take a very long time to remove the tarnish on a brand. So the President and the Secretary of Treasury and the Secretary of Commerce need to be very thoughtful that when you have a brand, you need to behave in a way that respects that brand, that strengthens that brand. Because when you tarnish that brand, it can be a lifetime to repair the damage that has been done.
The economic and political price of Donald Trump's stumbles on the economy is where we start today. Joining us now, U.S. financial commentator for the Financial Times, writer of the Unhedged newsletter, Robert Armstrong is here. Also joining us, Sarah Longwell. She's publisher of The Bulwark, host of the podcast, The Focus Group. And with me at the table for the hour, anchor and correspondent for Bloomberg News, David Gura. Sarah Longwell, let me start with you and the public's experience of Donald Trump's erratic behavior around economic policy. What has sunk in?
I mean, the main thing that has sunk in is that maybe Donald Trump doesn't know exactly what he's doing. Look, the fact is, when it comes to why a lot of voters, not all of them, not, the hardcore MAGA people, but there was another major slice of the Trump voting coalition that were people who just wanted things to cost less, right? They were upset about inflation. They were upset about the cost of housing. And they heard Donald Trump promise to lower the price of groceries. And that he was going to lower the cost of everything. It was going to be so easy and so fast. And when you listen to voters and focus groups, they say not only are things not getting better, but it feels like they're getting worse. And the level of uncertainty that they feel, and that is it. I really want to, it's the uncertainty that you can hear from people. You'll get some who are, they're still fans of Donald Trump, but they're kind of like, boy, I hope this works out. I'm not sure. But then you get other people, especially people who are cost constrained, who are at the lower end of the income spectrum. And those people notice every dollar and the way any price that goes up. And so from those voters who heard the promise that Trump was going to lower costs, who thought he was a businessman, who knew what he was doing, and is now watching this chaos and not seeing their prices go down, they are starting to lose faith that he's going to be able to keep the promises that he made to them.
Sarah, you and I had a lot of conversations in the run-up to the November election day, talking about how, who could break through to people? Could generals make the argument? And they finally, in the closing days of the campaign, spoke out about who Trump was. They said he was, quote, fascist to the core. I think that no one would have ever been cynical enough to want people to experience any economic insecurity, instability, or rising prices, right? It's not a thought exercise because too many people's lives and livelihoods and sense of their place in the world is at risk. But Donald Trump has done that experience for us. And I think if we go into the numbers, he's never had a 33% approval on any economic question. I don't think he even had that during the pandemic, when the disapproval was for supply chain issues, which people didn't completely blame him for. The world was shut down. The world streets were empty. And 38% is his overall approval on the economy. Has he ever been here before politically?
He's never been here before, but part of the reason he's never been here before is that with the exception of COVID, where people recognized a major exogenous event occurring, Donald Trump's strength, his central mythology was this idea that he was a businessman. And in that first term before COVID hit, he had a very strong economy and he kept running it hot. And so what you're seeing right now is people experiencing negative personal consequences as the result of the decisions that Donald Trump is making. And so when Donald Trump's strength, the thing that people count on him the most for, there's two things. One, that he will handle immigration well, and two, that he will handle the economy well, although they're flipped. They want the economy first, immigration second. And right now, he is failing on both of those fronts, and you're seeing his numbers drop on both of those fronts. And when you go at his strengths, at the central things people elected him to do, and people feel like he's failing on those fronts, especially because he keeps deporting people wrongly, and he keeps crashing the stock market, and prices of things are going up. Inflation's not coming down. He made promises he couldn't keep. That is a recipe for Donald Trump to get into really negative territory really fast. We have never seen somebody in the first 100 days. I mean, presidents enjoy a honeymoon period. The bottom usually starts to fall out sometime in the summer. Donald Trump has managed to crater every advantage he had before the first 100 days are up.
We talk a lot as well about message delivery in the manosphere and the blogosphere and the podosphere and the spherosphere and all that stuff, message delivery. It feels like we're in a lived experience chapter of our politics. How much influence do influencers even have in the political arena right now, Sarah?
Well, they actually do have some. Look, I want to make an argument for offense right now. Look, Donald Trump wanted to make the case that the problems in the economy were Joe Biden's fault. And I think that Yes, people do not believe that, and they don't believe it in part because Donald Trump has made it such a signature, the tariffs especially, such a signature of what he's doing. But look, you've got to be able to press your advantage. You've got to go on offense. You've got to say Trump is doing this. And I think people have been doing a better job of making him own this. And then especially where this has mattered is on immigration. You know, I think there were some politicians who said, look, don't talk about these wrongful deportations because, you know, Trump is so strong on immigration and it'll just be a distraction. That is wrong. OK, pressing on this, pressing on the rule of law components on this, on the fact that he's defying the Supreme Court, that has mattered. Donald Trump's numbers are falling precipitously on his handling of immigration. And so I think people need to start realizing that people are so afraid of Trump. Don't be afraid of Donald Trump. Go on offense. Help the American people understand why this is happening and whose fault it is. And I think you will continue to see Donald Trump's numbers decline because he is making so many catastrophically bad decisions.